Havana, 1960. A woman sits on the edge of a hotel bed. Her hands won't stop shaking. In her lap is a jar of cold cream. Hidden inside the cream are 2 capsules. CIA-issued poison, potent enough to kill a man within minutes. Her name is Marita Lorenz. The man sleeping 3 feet from her is Fidel Castro. Her ex-lover, her target. She twists open the jar. The capsules have dissolved into the cream. Useless. Months of planning. An entire intelligence operation funneled through one heartbroken woman, reduced to contaminated moisturizer in a Havana hotel bathroom. Castro stirs, opens his eyes, looks at her. According to her own testimony, he already knows why she's there. He reaches to the nightstand, pulls out his .45 caliber pistol and places it in her hands. You can't kill me, nobody can. She doesn't pull the trigger. This was attempt number 84. There were 637 others. The Central Intelligence Agency, the most powerful espionage organization in human history, spent 50 years and hundreds of millions of dollars trying to kill one man. They used poison, Mafia hitmen, exploding cigars, a contaminated diving suit, an exploding seashell on the ocean floor, LSD sprayed into a radio studio, thallium salt in his shoes to make his beard fall out. They sent his own ex-lover with poison hidden in cold cream. 638 documented attempts. Not a single success, but here's what nobody tells you about any of it. Castro wasn't surviving on luck. He knew about the plots before the assassins did. How is that possible? And what did it cost the most powerful nation on Earth to discover they were never the hunters? January 1959. Fidel Castro rides into Havana on the back of a military jeep, rifle slung over one shoulder, cigar between his teeth. He's 32 years old, 6'3", with a thick black beard that will become the most recognizable face in the Western Hemisphere. 6 months ago, CIA analysts classified him as a minor insurgent, a jungle rebel camped in the Sierra Maestra Mountains with a few hundred guerrillas and no realistic path to power. They wrote him off as a nuisance. Now he controls a Caribbean island 90 miles from the coast of Florida. And those analysts are rewriting every assessment they ever filed. The Eisenhower administration watches but doesn't panic. They've done this before. In 1953, the CIA overthrew the democratically elected government of Iran. 8 days. A few briefcases of cash, some planted newspaper stories, a coordinated coup, and President Mossadegh was gone. In 1954, Guatemala. Same playbook, faster execution. President Arbenz removed in under 2 weeks, replaced with a military colonel who answered American phone calls. 2 sovereign governments erased without breaking a sweat. Cuba should follow the same script. 1 small island. 1 bearded revolutionary with no air force, no navy, and no serious allies. This should take weeks. Then Castro moves faster than anyone in Washington anticipated. He nationalizes American businesses. Not 1 or 2, all of them. Sugar refineries, oil companies, telephone networks, hotels, casinos. $1 billion in U.S. assets seized overnight. Not through negotiation, not gradually, overnight. The executives who owned those assets don't file polite complaints. They call senators. They call the White House. These are men whose families had operated in Cuba for decades. Men who golfed with Eisenhower. Men whose campaign donations bought the kind of access that makes governments move. United Fruit, Standard Oil. Their lobbyists descend on Washington with a single demand: fix this. The CIA receives its orders: make the problem disappear. But while the agency is still drafting operational plans, Castro makes a second move that changes the calculation entirely. He turns to Moscow. Soviet military advisors arrive in Havana. Then equipment, trucks, weapons, radar installations. Then intelligence officers from the KGB itself. The jungle rebel who was supposed to be a manageable nuisance is suddenly backed by a nuclear superpower. The easy target has become the most dangerous man in the Western Hemisphere. And behind the public moves, the speeches, the nationalizations, the Soviet embrace, Castro was quietly building something else. Something the CIA wouldn't discover until it was far too late. Here's what you need to understand about why Washington lost its mind over one island. Every leftist movement in Latin America was watching Cuba. Venezuela, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, revolutionary groups across the continent were studying Castro, waiting to see what happened to him. If he survived, if one man could nationalize $1 billion in American property, ally himself with the Soviets, and still be breathing a year later, he became living proof of something that terrified Washington more than any missile. You can defy the United States and live. Every nationalist leader, every student organizer, every guerrilla commander in South America would see that proof, and they'd act on it. The domino theory wasn't abstract. It was sitting 90 miles from Key West, giving 4-hour speeches on live television, daring anyone to do something about it. The CIA's mandate shifted. This was no longer about installing a friendly government. This was elimination. The directive came from the very top. Fidel Castro cannot be allowed to exist. Operation Mongoose was born in late 1961. It became the largest covert operation in CIA history. 400 agents assigned full-time to a single objective, a budget of $50 million per year. In 1961, money. Entire divisions within the agency reorganized around one mission. The Technical Services Division began designing custom poisons, odorless, tasteless compounds engineered to kill without a trace. The Western Hemisphere desk recruited assets inside Havana. Safe houses were established across the Caribbean. Communication networks built. Cover identities created for dozens of operatives. The full weight of American intelligence, the best funded, best equipped, most experienced espionage apparatus in human history, organized around one target, one man. Small island, 90 miles from Florida. The CIA had the resources, the technology, the expertise, and direct presidential authorization. They'd toppled 2 governments in the last decade without losing a single agent. Their target was a man who ate, slept, and gave public speeches in predictable locations on a tiny Caribbean island. How hard could it be? The CIA's Technical Services Division went to work. These were the same engineers who built spy cameras disguised as coat buttons, the same chemists who created invisible ink for Cold War operatives across Europe. They were the best in the world at what they did. And what they did, starting in 1960, was design ways to kill Fidel Castro. The poison program came first. Botulinum toxin, one of the deadliest substances known to science, kills in hours, nearly impossible to detect in an autopsy. The lab developed capsules that dissolved in liquid without altering taste, color, or odor. By any professional standard, they were flawless. The plan was textbook intelligence work. Recruit someone with access to Castro's inner circle, get them close to his food or drink, and drop the pill. One capsule in one glass, quick, clean, deniable. It never worked, not once. Castro employed food tasters, not as a formality, but as permanent protocol. His kitchen staff rotated constantly. They didn't know which dish was destined for him until the moment it was served. He ate at random locations, at random times, sometimes changing plans minutes before sitting down. His own staff couldn't predict where he'd eat dinner on any given night. How was a recruited CIA asset supposed to? The agency delivered multiple poison pills to agents inside Cuba over the following months. Not a single capsule ever reached Castro's plate, so the agency made a deal with the devil. In 1960, CIA officers approached Santos Traficante and Sam Giancana, 2 of the most powerful mafia bosses in America. The logic was cold. The mob had something the CIA didn't. Before Castro's revolution, American gangsters ran Havana's casinos, hotels, and nightclubs. They had networks inside the city going back decades. Bartenders, hotel managers, waitstaff, people who could get close to Castro in ways the agency's own operatives never could. Think about what that means. The US government, the same government that ran the FBI to prosecute the Mafia, was handing poison capsules to mob bosses and asking them to commit murder on its behalf. That alliance would haunt the CIA for decades to come. Congressional investigations, careers destroyed. An entire chapter of American intelligence history the agency would spend years trying to bury. The agency supplied trafficante with the pills. The Mafia activated old contacts inside Havana's hospitality industry, bartenders and hotel workers who'd staffed the casinos before the revolution. An agent inside the Havana Libre Hotel, one of Castro's regular stops, was tasked with slipping the capsule into his drink. The plan was specific. Hide the pill in a freezer behind the hotel bar, wait for Castro's next visit, retrieve the capsule, drop it in his glass. When the moment arrived, the agent reached into the freezer. The capsule had frozen solid to the inner wall. He worked his fingernails under the edge, tried to pry it loose. It cracked open in his fingers. Poison spilled across the ice. Months of coordination between the CIA and the American Mafia, undone by a freezer. They tried again. Different agent, different location. That attempt collapsed when the contact lost his nerve at the last moment. A third try. The recruited insider went completely silent, vanished from all communication without a trace. The Mafia sent its own people through separate channels. Every approach fell apart through some combination of bad luck, cold feet, and compromised contacts. The most powerful intelligence agency in the world and the most powerful criminal organization in America, working together with unlimited resources, still could not kill one man eating dinner on a small island. But here's what started keeping CIA officers awake at night. It wasn't just that the methods were failing, it was the pattern. Recruited agents inside Cuba were getting rolled up. An asset the agency had spent months cultivating would simply vanish. No warning, no distress signal, nothing. A safe house used twice would get raided on the third visit. Communication channels went dead at precisely the worst moment. It was as if someone on the other side was reading the CIA's operational cables in real time, as if Castro knew exactly what was coming before the people assigned to carry it out did. Remember that pattern. The vanishing agents, the raided safe houses, the communication channels that died at exactly the wrong moment. That pattern is the answer to everything in this story. But the CIA won't piece it together for another 40 years. The agency attributed it to bad luck and sloppy field tradecraft. They were wrong, but they wouldn't understand how wrong for a very long time. Professional methods were exhausted. The best poisons in the world couldn't reach Castro's food. The Mafia's Havana networks had been burned, compromised, or turned. The CIA faced a choice: accept that one man on a small island had beaten them, or escalate beyond the boundaries of professional espionage into territory no intelligence agency should ever enter. They escalated. What happens when the most powerful intelligence agency on Earth runs out of rational options? The exploding cigar. The CIA's Technical Services Division designed a cigar packed with enough explosive to kill anyone within a few feet. Castro was famous for his cigars. They were part of his image, part of his revolutionary brand. The plan: slip the rigged cigar into a box of his favorite brand during a diplomatic meeting. He'd light it himself. It would look like nothing. The cigar never reached him. The contaminated diving suit. Castro loved scuba diving, one of his few known hobbies and one the CIA studied carefully. The agency prepared a wetsuit dusted with a fungal agent designed to produce chronic, debilitating skin disease. They rigged the breathing apparatus with tuberculosis bacteria. Biological weapons, engineered by American government scientists, hidden inside what was supposed to look like a diplomatic gift. The plan: deliver the suit through a back-channel diplomat as a gesture of goodwill. But the diplomat assigned to the mission looked at the contaminated suit, looked at his classified orders, and made a decision nobody at CIA headquarters anticipated. He gave Castro a clean suit instead. One person's conscience and the entire operation evaporated. The exploding seashell. Castro's favorite dive spots were well known. The CIA designed an exotic, brightly colored shell rigged with enough explosive to kill on contact. They'd plant it on the ocean floor at his preferred diving location. The colors would attract his eye. He'd swim toward it, pick it up. The plan was abandoned when someone at the agency finally raised a question that apparently no one had considered during the design phase. How do you guarantee a man picks up one specific shell on an ocean floor covered in thousands of them? The LSD broadcast. Castro gave frequent national radio addresses, long, passionate speeches that were central to his political image. The CIA planned to spray LSD into the ventilation system of his radio studio so he'd hallucinate on air, babbling incoherently in front of the entire nation. His credibility would be destroyed without firing a shot. The plan was shelved. They couldn't access the ventilation system and the thallium shoes. This one was different from all the others. Thallium salt placed inside Castro's shoes, a compound that causes hair loss. The target wasn't Castro's body, it was his beard. Without the beard, the agency theorized his public image as a revolutionary strongman would collapse. His followers would see a bare-faced man instead of a mythic figure, a different kind of assassination, killing the symbol, not the person. The plan failed. They couldn't get access to his shoes. Now read that list one more time. Exploding cigars, a contaminated diving suit, a rigged seashell on the ocean floor, LSD in a radio studio, chemicals to make a man's beard fall out. These weren't rejected proposals scribbled on napkins during a late-night brainstorm. These were real operational plans designed by real analysts with security clearances, approved through real chains of command, funded with real American tax dollars, authorized by real presidents. Every single one. This wasn't comedy. This was what happens when institutional obsession replaces professional judgment. When an organization that exists to be rational becomes incapable of accepting one rational conclusion, we cannot kill this man. And here's the part nobody at Langley understood yet. Each failure made them more desperate. Each desperate attempt was sloppier. And each sloppy attempt, the contaminated suits, the planted shells, the agents who vanished, gave Castro's intelligence services more data about exactly how the CIA operated, what methods they favored, what channels they used, who their contacts were. The hunter was educating the prey. The prey was taking notes. The CIA's Cuba desk became a career graveyard. 3 case officers requested transfers in a single year. 2 senior analysts resigned from the agency entirely. Agents assigned to the Castro program burned out, got reassigned to dead-end posts, or quit. The Mafia alliance that started as a cold operational calculation was becoming a political liability that would shadow the agency for decades. And through all of it, the methods kept getting stranger, and Castro kept breathing. But there was one approach they hadn't tried. The most personal weapon in their arsenal, the most dangerous, and the most morally indefensible operation the CIA would ever run. Lorenz is 19 years old when she first sees Fidel Castro. It's 1959, months after the revolution. She's a German citizen aboard a cruise ship visiting Havana Harbor, one of the last tourist vessels to dock before relations between Cuba and the West freeze entirely. Castro comes aboard, as he often does in those early days, charming foreign visitors, showing off the new Cuba. He's 33, magnetic, impossible to ignore. She's a teenager who speaks fluent Spanish and has nowhere particular to be. They begin an affair. Within weeks, she's living in Havana. Within months, she's pregnant. What happens next will follow her for the rest of her life. According to Lorenz's account, she is taken to a hospital where the pregnancy is terminated without her consent. She wakes up in a recovery room. Nobody explains. Nobody apologizes. She'd trusted him. She'd loved him. Whatever happened in that hospital, hollowed out something inside her that would never fully heal. She returns to the United States devastated, furious, and carrying a grief with no resolution. The CIA knows all of this. They've been watching. They know about the affair. They know about the pregnancy. They know about the anger, and they see something they can use. Agency officers approach her, sympathetic, understanding. They tell her what she already suspects. Castro used her and discarded her. Then they offer her something the CIA rarely offers civilians. A mission. Return to Havana. Get close to Castro again. Kill him. She agrees. They give her poison capsules. Small, potent, fast-acting. She hides them in her jar of cold cream, a place she's certain no one will check. She flies to Havana, clears customs without a second look. Passes through Castro's security and the rotating guards, the watchful eyes, without raising any alarm. She reaches him. She is in the room. She has the weapon. The CIA's most intimate assassination attempt is minutes from execution. In the bathroom, she unscrews the lid of the cold cream with trembling fingers. Her stomach drops. The capsules have dissolved. Moisture and heat have broken them down into the cream. Contaminated residue, but nothing close to a deliverable lethal dose. She stares at the white paste in her hands. There is no plan B. No backup capsules. No extraction team waiting outside. No second weapon. She is a 19-year-old woman standing alone in a Havana hotel bathroom holding a useless jar of cold cream, and the man she's supposed to kill is sleeping 10 feet away. She considers her options. There are none. Castro wakes up. According to Lorenz's testimony, he looks at her and knows immediately that something is wrong. He doesn't shout, doesn't call his guards. He sits up slowly, calm as a man who has been through this before, because he has dozens of times, and reaches to the nightstand, pulls out his .45 caliber pistol. The barrel catches the low light. He holds it out to her, handle first. "You can't kill me," he says. "Nobody can." She takes the gun, feels the full weight of it in her hand, does not pull the trigger. She leaves Cuba the next morning. Sit with that for a moment. The CIA identified a 19-year-old woman whose pregnancy had been terminated without her consent. They studied her pain, cultivated her anger, weaponized her heartbreak, and sent her back to kill the man who caused it. Not poison in a drink, not a bullet from a professional. They took a grieving young woman and turned her into a delivery mechanism. And it failed. Not because of a frozen capsule or a contaminated suit or a missing ventilation duct. It failed because the CIA built this operation on a foundation it cannot understand and will never learn to compute: human emotion. The most calculated intelligence operation in the Western Hemisphere crashed against the fact that a woman holding a loaded weapon, standing over the man who destroyed her life, could not bring herself to fire. This was the deepest failure in 638 attempts. Not technical, not operational, human. The lover was the last personal weapon in the CIA's arsenal. After Marita Lorenz, the assassination program began its slow, grinding death, but the question that's been building since the first chapter still hasn't been answered. Why did nothing work? Was Castro the luckiest man who ever lived? Was the CIA genuinely incompetent? Or was something else happening the entire time? Something nobody on the American side understood. Castro wasn't just surviving assassination attempts. He was running an intelligence operation against the people trying to kill him, and running it better than they ran theirs. Cuba's Dirección General de Inteligencia, the DGI, had been trained and equipped by the KGB from the earliest days of the revolution. Soviet intelligence specialists spent years building Cuba's espionage capability, teaching them the same tradecraft that had kept the KGB competitive with the CIA across the entire Cold War. And the DGI used that training to do something devastating. They penetrated the CIA's Cuba operations at every level. Not one level, every level. Dozens of agents the CIA believed were working for Washington were actually working for Havana. Double agents, recruited, trained, and controlled by Cuban intelligence, who reported every American approach, every poison shipment, every Mafia contact, every safe house address directly back to Castro's security apparatus. Those CIA assets who went silent inside Cuba, those safe houses raided on the third visit, those communication channels that died at exactly the wrong moment. Now the pattern makes sense. They weren't failures of tradecraft. They were features of Castro's intelligence machine. Think about what that means. When the CIA sent poison pills through the Mafia, Castro's people knew about the pills before the Mafia handler did. When the agency recruited insiders to tamper with his food, those insiders reported the approach within hours. When operatives established safe houses in Havana, the DGI had the addresses before the CIA finished unpacking. This is why nothing worked. Not bad luck, not incompetence. Castro was running the better operation, and his daily life was designed as a counter-assassination machine. He slept in a different location every night, sometimes switching buildings twice before dawn. He maintained a fleet of identical black sedans that took different routes across Havana simultaneously, so even a well-positioned sniper with perfect intelligence would never know which vehicle carried the real target. His food was prepared by rotating kitchen staff who didn't know which dish was for Castro until the moment it left the kitchen. He traveled with a personal security detail trained not by Cuban military officers, but by KGB specialists who had studied every known CIA assassination method in detail. Every movement, every meal, every public appearance was calibrated to the exact threat he faced. This wasn't the behavior of a paranoid man. This was a counterintelligence system operating at the highest professional level. The scoreboard speaks for itself. 638 documented assassination attempts against one man. CIA directors who oversaw the program: Alan Dulles, John McCone, Richard Helms, James Schlesinger, William Colby, George H.W. Bush, Stansfield Turner, William Casey. 8 directors, 5 decades, presidents who authorized the killing: Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, presidents who inherited the failure: Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. Castro outlived every single president who wanted him dead. He outlived the directors. He outlived the agents. He outlived the Mafia bosses the CIA hired to do the job. 50 years, hundreds of millions of dollars, 400 dedicated agents. The full weight of American power aimed at one man. November 25th, 2016. Fidel Castro dies. He is 90 years old. He is in his bed. The cause of death is natural. The most targeted man in modern history, the man the most powerful intelligence agency on Earth, spent 5 decades trying to eliminate using every method human ingenuity could produce: poison, explosives, biological weapons, organized crime, psychological warfare, and a heartbroken 19-year-old girl with a jar of cold cream died of old age. The CIA tried 638 ways to kill Fidel Castro. The one thing that finally worked was the one thing they never tried: time. His final act of defiance wasn't a revolution. It wasn't a speech. It was a heartbeat. If you found this story as unbelievable as I did, smash that like button and hit subscribe. There are more stories exactly like this one. Things the most powerful agencies on Earth couldn't stop, couldn't kill, and couldn't explain.